All right. We are recording. Who wants to give a prayer?
I can do it. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day. We're thankful that we could gather together and learn from one another. Please help us that we can understand these cases and apply them into our lives. In the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay. So, question one, unless anybody has a spiritual thought they want to share. Okay. So, put yourself in the shoes of Brentwood Associates Management. You must decide whether or not you will exit Zoe's Kitchen now, and if so, what is the best exit option? Vote as a group. What should they do? IPO now, sell to a buyer, wait and grow the business.
Personally, my vote is to either sell to a strategic buyer or wait and grow the business.
Same.
Yeah, for me, IPO didn't seem like really the best option.
Yeah, it almost seemed like IPOs during the '90s were just kind of a fad,
Mhm.
and then everyone is interested in them. It's like, oh, whatever, it's still happening, but who cares? And so I don't think that an IPO would be very well received, and they could really get as much turnaround as they could with other options.
Yeah.
I was kind of for an IPO because it seemed like where the market was at, that they were more interested in a smaller company like this, and Noodles company has done so well. Even though Zoe's is a little smaller, I just thought that, and with so much, there were so many people interested in them when they haven't even gone through the IPO. I just thought it might actually be good timing for it. But I also thought, I was debating between that and waiting and growing the business to get it a little bigger before doing that. But also they wanted the recognition for the company. If Zoe's could do well, that would help their company to get the credibility that they wanted. Dimitri, what was your vote?
I think he should wait. I'm sure that the company will be stronger in the future. It has Brentwood are filled with professionals, and it means that the company is in good hands. I'm not sure that the selling company to financial sponsor or strategic buyer would decrease or would increase the volume. Maybe it will decrease the volume. And also, I'm not sure that IPO process that the company is ready for IPO because it involves direct costs now and in future, and it required complexity of the structure now and in future as well. And in my opinion, it would be wise to proceed as a private company instead of public company to grow, expand, and get stronger, preparing for IPO maybe in a couple years.
Good points. Really good points. That was something that they struggled with, I think, was like if they became a public company, they'd have a responsibility to like short-term goals for their investors at the expense usually of long-term achievement.
Mm-hmm.
They lose a lot of flexibility that way. And I forgot about how the selling to a strategic or financial buyer would be like less value and also, just less value. So they wouldn't get as much money out of it.
Yeah, one of my biggest. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just thought, yeah, I agree that the strategic buyer and financial buyer maybe isn't the best option right now because it would be more valuable down the road. Go ahead, Trevor. Sorry.
So my thing is, I know IPO was something that they were interested in, but they're only making $13 million after taxes. And for them to even have an IPO, the cost amount to about $11 million. So I just don't think they're big enough quite yet to use an IPO, which is why I do a strategic partner or a strategic buyer / partner.
Yeah, the only IPO that Brentwood had before this, I think, was Zoomies. And so they were worried that this could really, like, if they went for an IPO, they would make or break their reputation as like a strong investment company.
It would be kind of a gamble for them to do an IPO because they said there was a lot of risks right now. I don't know if you guys read or remembered reading, I can't remember, I can't sound his name, Agarwal or something.
Yeah.
He kind of proposed or like was liking the option of selling a minority stake to like a financial buyer, and then having an IPO in like 2 to 3 years. So this lets them, like as the Brentwood Associates people, lets them get money back, recoup some of their investment, but it enables them to like still have have stake and control in the company, and then at the IPO they can release it with even more growth. So I saw that as like a best of both worlds, and he described it as a have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Think about that.
So one of my things, so Brentwood, they're used to having companies for about 6.5 years. And they've already had those for about 5 years. So even if they waited like another 2 years before doing an IPO, they're going to have to hold on to that for way more than 6.5 years to recoup everything.
Okay. So, as a group, allow each individual to state his or her position. We all agree, take a counter position, and explore why you would consider those options. We've kind of discussed everything, other than why would they want to exit now?
I think the biggest reason they'd want to exit now is just for that recognition and the market timing, where it seems like they're interested because of the recession in smaller companies. And this is such a stable company that has had remarkable growth. So it could be really good timing, and this window might not be open down the road. It might not be as as good a opening. And for smaller companies, it does cost less, but it will, it'll still require a lot of them. And they don't have much to work with, so it would be hard to go through an IPO, and it is a little bit risky.
That's true, because if they did wait, it would not necessarily decrease the amount that they would probably be able to get. But once like the inflation and all that stuff all settles down, the company could technically like be not worth as much, like you're saying.
Yeah. And there might not be as much interest in the smaller companies down the road like there is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, there aren't many that small that go through an IPO. So that's a little bit risky.
So how much is Zoe's worth under each exit option?
So I know that if you sold to a financial buyer, you're looking at getting like 13 times the EBIT. So that was kind of my calculation as I did 13 times the 13 million. So I got about 169 million.
I think that was for a strategic buyer. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the financial buyer was 8 times.
Yep.
So how much did you get again?
So for the strategic partner, strategic partner / buyer, 169 million.
Okay. I got 141-ish. Oh, 141 million.
I did too.
And for the financial buyer, I got 87 million.
Okay.
And then on if they went public, it was like 21 times the EBITDA. So I got something like 228 million.
Yeah, that's what I got too.
Yep. That's the market returns. What's the next question on that?
What differences did you observe in the valuations based on who buys the company? Does this make any sense and discuss as a group? And why would anyone sell to a financial buyer instead of IPO? Why would you choose a financial buyer instead of the IPO?
It's faster. There's less direct costs. Less dependent on the unpredictable market.
Yeah, like they were saying, if a company in a similar like market as you, like, I don't know, doesn't do well performance wise, and then ascribes it to like, oh, the food costs raised on us, or like this or that, the market's not doing well, then your stock prices could drop even if you haven't had a loss in performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just much safer. Does anybody else have any input on this case, or we can move to the next one?
I think that's all.
Moving on up. So, Jim Sharp case. Assess this venture from Jim Sharp's perspective.
Jim Sharp's perspective, he'd been working his whole life for other people and gaining experience, and he finally felt like, hey, I want to get into a business, but what I'm good at is like making an existing business better rather than starting something. So he wanted to like buy one, right?
Try something out, yeah.
Yeah, just so there's less risk than starting something up brand new. But I don't know. I want to add to that.
I think he'd also been that's the kind of work he'd been doing and experience he'd been gaining is taking someone else's business and improving it, working with it.
Mm-hmm. Updating the technology, making sure everything was up to date, because there's a lot of companies where they just get stuck in the way that they were and they keep running it that way even if it grows. They're not used to seeing that kind of thing. And so he was able to bump it up to the next level, keep it up to date. So how has Jim Sharp purchased this venture? What are the implications of this financial structure?
So he did a leverage buyout, right?
Mhm.
What would you say?
I thought it was saying they wanted to avoid that.
They wanted to avoid the leveraged buyout?
Did I misunderstand it?
I think that's the only way he could do it because he didn't have enough money.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, you're right. But he was worried about it going wrong, so he took the previous owner took a lot of precautions to avoid the things that have been going wrong with that.
Yeah, which locked him down to some pretty interesting
Yes.
constrictions.
Yeah, so basically he got a lot of debt.
Yeah, and then if you're not able to flip it and pay off creditors or whatever, you just
We lose it.
go to bankruptcy and go from there. What should he do on his first day as owner?
So after this, I felt like, I'd introduce myself to my employees and tell them my credentials and what I've done in the past, and then I'd comfort them and give them hope that things are going to get better, and then set expectations really
Mm-hmm.
where I wanted them.
That's actually a good point, to set expectations. I hadn't thought of that.
and then obviously do just basically what he's been doing, find the bottleneck, figure out what's not working, fix that, go on to the next thing. But yeah, I definitely agree. Not my analysis as well, that he should let everyone in on his master plan if he wants it to work well and go over well, because right now he's the entrant in almost an incumbent market, and he needs to get everyone on the same page as him as soon as possible.
Agreed. So this next question's actually in like the assignment part. What should his action plan be for the next 6 months, 12 months, and what should his priorities be? Somebody update the Google Doc.
Yeah, I'm in Google Docs right now. Everything's up.
Okay.
Yeah, I updated it last night. Should work for our purposes.
Okay, so what should his action plan be for the next 6 months, 12 months, and his priorities? What should they be?
Mm-hmm. I don't know how to break it down. Like, is it just 6 months and next year, or you could do weekly increments? What do you think?
Like Jonathan was saying, within the first 6 months, you got to find that bottleneck and fix that, and then you'll be able to go from there and figure out exactly what is needed from there. Because until you fix that, you won't be able to really progress the company in the way that you purchased it to do.
Yeah, it said he already noticed multiple things that needed to be fixed with the company. So obviously he would get to work on that. But he'd also have to keep in mind the bank covenants that he had agreed to, and have to keep that in mind, which would restrict him to some extent. But one thing he mentioned was the amount of raw material being purchased was far greater than what was needed for maintaining production. So he could fix that right away, and that would help free up some resources so that they're not stuck waiting, not being used.
Mm-hmm.
And they could get to work on him updating the technology with that, some of that. But he'd also have to be focusing on paying down the debt he incurred.
Yeah, being able to pay that off as quickly as possible so that he doesn't have to go into that whole bankruptcy phase of trying to fix his financials and whatnot.
Yeah.
Would you say that getting rid of or stopping the acquisition of new products or new raw materials, which one would you say is more important?
Of which?
So you talked about how they're purchasing more than, they are purchasing a lot more than what they need at a time, which is smarter in the long run, but in the short run, it wastes a lot of money. So I agree they should stop that. But do you think they should try to find buyers for the extra that they currently have to not only cut costs, but actually make a little bit of money there as well? What do you think?
Yeah, totally. He said that there were a couple of high volume opportunities that he could pursue. So that's a good idea. He should go for those and see if they can use that volume they have. It's a good point.
Agreed, especially in the short term, because it would allow him to begin to make money as quickly as possible instead of just holding on to it and waiting for it to be needed.
Yeah.
But I think that's one area that he's learned to be good at is juggling, how much, and staying on top of how much raw material they actually need based on their demand. So I think he's a good guy for the job.
Okay.
What about that extruder? When do you guys think you should do that, update that?
I guess he needs to get familiar with it first and see how it is and what needs to happen with it.
I wondered, well, I don't know, he had that rough estimate at the beginning, or was that just like a side thing on the Excel sheet where he was like, it would be like 250,000 to bring the risk of it like messing up down from 30% to 5%. But when it messes up, it costs like 200 grand.
Wow. Was that the thing where he told the bank it was going to last for another 40 years or something?
I don't know.
So, yeah, he told the bank it could last another 40 years. So I'm not sure that
Yeah,
replacing it would be his best option right now. Unless, of course, he had to, but
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I put down, wait longer than a year to replace it.
cool.
So did he make the right acquisition?
I think it's kind of a silly question because I think a lot of things could have been the right acquisition, but I think even though this looks a little risky, I think he, with his experience, I think he is a good fit for this. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I definitely agree that it may have not been the right acquisition. Who knows what the right one is, but it's definitely a smart one. And it seems like, just basically parroting everything you said, it seems like he made a really great decision for his skill set on something that wasn't crazy expensive. It's a bit of a risk, but it looks like it's something that you can turn around and make very profitable very quickly if he gets everyone on board. That's the if for me. But yeah, I think it's a good idea.
All right. So now just finishing up the questions.
I was muted that whole time. So for the returns or the market worth of everything, I just pasted in what I got. which I got from taking the EBITDA that I found on Exhibit 7 for the most recent year, which looks like it was 10,899,000. And then I did that 8 times, 13 times, and 21 times on that number to get those. Did anyone do anything different?
No.
Nah, those are what I got.
Is that a good enough number to use? Because that's the adjusted EBITDA. Thinking it's fine, but if you guys,
Yeah, that's the only one that we have, right? I couldn't find it anywhere else.
yeah, it says that the 2013. If you look at the bottom under source, the 2013 expected results equal actual results.
Oh, okay.
So it should be. It's expected, but it's also actual. I don't know.
Seems the right way to go.
Do we need to explain how we got that? Or I guess we just have to discuss how we got our answers.
This one went a lot quicker than the past weeks.
Did you guys have trouble with that spreadsheet for Jim Sharp? That we
A
had to do?
little bit. I don't have it pulled up though right now. All right, so just who wants to take charge this week in submitting it?
I can do that.
Okay, and then once this is done, I'll get the group meeting link all typed up and sent to or submitted for us. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Other than we can continue to add stuff to the document, but does anybody have anything to add in this chat, this discussion? All right.
We're good to go.
Okay, just add a little bit more feedback if you can. We're good to go. See you guys later. See you next week.
Thanks.
Yeah.